What's up guys, Rick with RallySport Direct here. Today we've got one of the most hardcore yet essential off-road modifications you can make to any vehicle, but we got it on our 2018 Crosstrek. This is the Warn Semi Hidden Winch kit and is completely overkill. Now, let's dive into what makes this thing so bad. First up, this bumper. Now this is incredibly heavy duty, and with its unique design, you get better approach angles and protection against anything on the trail. And speaking of heavy duty, this thing is heavy, weighing in at 60 pounds by itself because it's made from incredibly thick welded steel that mounts directly to the frame of the vehicle and does have provisions for additional recovery support. And next, the Axon 55S winch with an incredible 5,500 pound pull capacity, all in a remarkably small package that fits beautifully under the factory bumper. It does include a fully synthetic rope and everything you need to get yourself out of any situation, regardless of the conditions, with its IP68 waterproof rating. And last is their grill guard. Now this thing is made from the same heavy duty steel, powder coated black, and allows you to mount just about any aftermarket driving or fog light that you can think of. And it really completes the overall off-road look of the vehicle and offers some additional protection. So that's a quick overview of the Semi Hidden kit. And now I want to show you guys how we install it on our 2018 Crosstrek. All right, first thing we need to do is grab the fair lead and the winch mounting plate. Then we're going to use the supplied hardware and grab a 17mm wrench along with an 8mm hex key, and we can mount the fair lead to the plate. And when you're happy with the fitment, go ahead and grab the supplied power and ground cables as well as the small silicone protective boots. Now, Warn does recommend trimming the small ends of the boots to allow it to slide over the cable easier. Just go ahead and snip the small ends and slide them over the power and ground cables. Now you want them to be snug, but not too tight, as we still need to be able to slide it back during the install. Now grab the remote cable lead and find the single small red wire. Go ahead and strip a bit of that insulation off the end, grab a ring terminal and crimp it to the wire. And then with that wire prepped, we can now grab the winch and get the cables ready. Note, on the winch there is a dedicated power and ground. You should be able to see that, but just go ahead and peel back the protective silicone boot on the red power cable, hook it up to the power terminal, and then grab that small red wire we just crimped, hook that one on that terminal as well, and then grab the supplied 10mm nut, tighten that down. Now just do the same with the ground cable, and then we can fix the protective boots back around the exposed terminal. And then with that done, we can work on getting the winch mounted to the bumper. Grab the mounting plate and fair lead and line it up with the 4 holes on the bumper. Then grab the winch and note the mounting location on the bottom. Now just go ahead and slowly lower it down onto the mounting plate, and just trying to keep the 4 holes all lined up with the bumper, the plate, and the winch. Then grab the supply bolts and thread them up into the winch from the bottom of the bumper. Once those bolts are tight, we're going to want to free the rope from the winch. So release the clutch on the winch, guide the rope out and then through the fair lead, lock that clutch back down, give the rope a good tug, and you should actually feel the clutch kind of click and engage to stop the rope. Now moving on to mounting the remote connector, we want to pull the remote wiring harness through the hole on the back side of the bumper. Then grab the remote connector, bring it up through the small port from the bottom, place that kind of rubber boot over the connector, and then use the supplied screws to mount the connector in place. Go ahead and just place the boot back over the connector, and let's get the car prepped for the install. Now, as always, remove the positive battery cable from the battery, but we also went ahead and removed the negative cable as well. Now, underneath the car, we need to remove the plastic drip pan and the splash shields on both sides. And then once we got those removed, go ahead and unplug the fog light connectors on each side, and let's get the bumper ready for removal. So go ahead and remove the push pins on each side of the front of the wheel well, and then move up to the top and remove the clips and the 10mm bolts holding the bumper to the radiator support. Once you confirm everything is moved, go ahead and just pop the sides of the bumper out to release it from the car. Now this does take a bit of force, but once those are free, we can actually just go ahead and remove the bumper from the car. Now, we need to find the temperature sensor. It's going to be on the front right side, just under the bumper beam. Use a set of pliers and squeeze and release the sensor from the car. Go ahead and just set that off to the side as we'll mount it on the Warn bumper later. Next, we can remove the 5 10mm bolts from the plastic lower air guide, and then just go ahead and remove the guide from the car. Now let's get the bumper beam off. So there's going to be 4 12mm bolts on each side. Note that the bumper beam will stay in its place even with the bolts removed. So you kind of have to lift up and out to release the beam from the car. And then with the beam removed, we need to mount the Warn bumper in its place. Now you will definitely either need help from a friend or have something that can support the bumper as you line it up and bolt it in place. Now, verify that the bumper is centered and then use those 8 12mm bolts that you just removed and secure the new bumper to the car. Now double check all of the bolts, ensure they're nice and tight, and then we can move on to mounting the temperature sensor. Now Warn has provided a hole in the bumper on the right-hand side. Let's go ahead and push the sensor down in the hole, twist it a little bit, and it should lock into place. Now it's onto the wiring. Now you do have the freedom to route the cables however you prefer up to the battery. Now Warn does recommend running them up under the AC line, which then should exit near the windshield washer reservoir. Once you have your route figured out, then we can just pull the cables up through, but you do want to leave a little bit of slack near the winch. Then go ahead and take any excess cable and bundle them up and secure them so they won't rub on anything. Now we chose to bundle them against the factory wiring harness under the left-hand headlight. And then you should have some excess wiring for the remote wiring harness. Now we chose to bundle this one up to the factory harness that runs vertically right up along the AC condenser. And then just make sure you snip off any excess zip ties. Now let's turn our attention to the bumper and specifically cutting the bumper. Now Warn does give you a general guide included in the instructions, but ultimately the final fit will be up to you. And I always recommend taping the bumper for a bit of added protection, but you can also use that tape along with a marker to kind of mark out your cut lines. It's always best to take off too little than to take off too much. Now for the cutting, I used a combination of an air saw, a razor blade, a flat sanding disc, a rotary tool with a sanding wheel, sandpaper, and a small torch. But really there are many ways you can do this and still get an incredibly clean result. The key is just to take your time and check the fitment. Now we did eventually want to cut pretty close to the fog lights, so just to be safe, we removed the fog covers. You just do that simply by pushing the clips down in the rear and pushing the cover out. Now once you're happy with the fitment of the bumper, you can do your final touches and clean up the edges, then put the fog covers back on and put the bumper back on the car. Now installation of the bumper is pretty simple, and essentially we just reverse what we did when we removed it. So get the bumper secured around the headlights and the fender, install the 10mm bolts and the plastic clips along the top side, install the push clips in the front fender well, and then go to the bottom and hook up the fog lights, and then secure the side splash shield and install the drip pan. With that done, we can finally give the winch its much needed power. So go ahead and hook up your negative cable up to the negative battery terminal, and then do the same for the positive side. Reinstall the terminals onto the battery and verify that they're nice and tight. Now you will want to test the winch using the supplied remote. Go ahead and move it out, then back in, and make sure everything sounds and looks good. And then with that done, we can go ahead and install the protective sleeve over the rope, and then the hook using the supplied pin and little cotter pin. Now, if you're also installing the grill guard, just go ahead and use the supplied bolts and nuts that they gave you to secure the guard to the bumper. Now, honestly, the hardest part about this is just getting access to the nuts there on the bottom, but you do have a little bit of room to kind of squeeze your arm in there with the wrench to hold the nuts in place. So then just secure the hardware, double check that the fitment is the exact way you want it, and bam. And that's it. You've installed one of the best aftermarket winch kits on the market. Really pretty easy. Now, don't think that this is it for this Subaru. We're gonna keep on building this into a proper off-roader. And of course, I'm gonna be testing this winch kit and putting it through its full paces and giving you guys a review at a later time. But I wanna know, what would you guys do to build the ultimate off-road Subaru? Drop a comment down below and let me know. And also make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more updates on this Crosstrek as well as on our other projects. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.